Hi, everyone. So wonderful to see you and to spend time with you. My name is Katerina Stoikova. I'm the founder and senior editor of Accents Publishing. We're an independent press in Lexington, Kentucky. Every other week, more or less, we plan to bring you an author of a book published by Accents Publishing and focus on this author and that book for an hour. So far, we've featured Lita Kendrick. I don't have her book to show you, at this moment, and her book And Luck Here. Then Sonia de Vries and her anthology, The Junkie Who Loved Horses. That's an anthology of poetry by formerly incarcerated men. She collected those. Chris McCurry's Open Burning was next. Then on November 18th, we featured Frank X. Walker's latest book, Masked Man Black, Pandemic and Protest Poems. On December 16th, we will have a big celebration. Everybody who has had poems published in literary accents, as well as forthcoming in the follow-up issue, are invited to read their contribution. I think it will be super fun. That will be on that will be on December 16th. And then in January, we have two more Accents Book Club events, and one is Sirens and Rain on the 13th by Barry George. It's a haiku book. He's our haiku writer. He was one of the very, very first accents authors, such as Jude. Jude's book was our number one book, our very first book. And this one, I think, was our third book. He was the author of our third book, and this is his new full length of haiku. And then on the 27th of January, we will feature Karen Schubert and the Compost Reader. She is from Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio. And really fantastic book. She has 5 chapbooks published, and this is her first full length. And to learn more about the series, Accents Publishing, and the kind of work we do, send me an email or follow us on Facebook, and we'll make sure that you know what we're planning, and also you'll learn about submission opportunities. And I want to turn our attention to the book of the hour and the author of the hour. This is the book, Earth is My Church, by Eric Sutherland. And this is his other book that we have published, that's Pendulum. So Eric is one of the people I miss seeing in person the most. One of the people who makes creative community magic happen. He has given so many of us opportunity to be seen and heard. And that's long before the legendary Holler Poet series. This is just who Eric is. If he creates something, others are welcome too. Everybody who knows Eric knows that he loves Mother Earth. He is one of these rare individuals who aligns words and actions towards the health of our forests and mountains and our clean water. A man who makes his living healing trees. He heals all of us with the energy of his being and his words. I call his latest book, Earth is My Church, an instant classic because we had heard and come to love many of the poems throughout the years. The publication of these poems packages the light, love, and spiritual power of Eric's words. And what a beautiful package that is, with a cover image by Cricket Press. Now, More than ever, we need this book. Despite our current set of crises and the disarray we know will come sooner than later, this is a book that refuses despair, says Morris Manning. Writers like Eric Sutherland make that hope seem more possible, says Joe Servant. This is a holy book full of love, rage, and hope, says Marianne Taylor Hall. And what I say is that these are poems of connection and significance, vision, and enlightenment. Thank you, Eric, for your gifts. Please help me welcome poet and human, Eric Scott Sutherland.
Woo, 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 woo.
Thank you very much, Katerina. What a heartfelt and beautiful introduction. Obviously, those of you that know me and most of you I know, I'm a hugger, and, you know, being in the space with each other and sharing that energy. So it's been a difficult time, but I definitely feel the love and I appreciate those words. Couldn't ask for a better publisher, a supporter of my work and those that she publishes work. So I'm glad to see that Accents is continuing to flourish and put out amazing work. So I'm honored to be here and to share with you tonight. If at any point anyone has, if you have the book and there's something you actually want to hear me read, throw it in the chat and I'll try to check on that. I'm going to read some stuff maybe that I haven't read. I've done some virtual readings here over the summer and into the fall. And some of these I've read a lot and then some I haven't. So I'd like to just read and, when you all start waving the white flag, I'll stop. So I don't really want to talk. Let's just hear some poems. This piece is The Watchman. Like the purple finch singing into the crash bang city that always moans, you can find me high above the roar on a watchman's branch, melancholic at the end of the day, yearning beautifully. Since it's the season of reflection and introspection, obviously this book was informed by a lot of different spiritual teachings, from Native American religious philosophy to Christianity and everything in between. This poem is called New Fire. I can find it. An arrow of geese across the sky, time of new fire, a nail in the cross of my conviction. It will take many more than me to free us from the cage of old fires, now cold coals, atop a world of ash. There is nothing left to burn but the past. The old way will not keep us warm anymore. One thing that I find pleasing about the book, it's been a long time in the making, is the interspersal of tiny poems. And this is one of my favorites. Well, hello there, Skippy. You hear the cat. This one's called In the Medicine Bag. In the medicine bag, a red-tailed hawk, an eagle, a pelican, sitting inside a dream catcher, a turtle's femur, a glistening crystal, and two flesh pink stones shaped like hearts. This is one of my favorite poems in the book, and I put it at the very beginning. And to me, it encapsulates the hope that I think I live with. It can get really dark, and I'm hanging to that thread of hope. And this poem, I think, sets the tone for the book and remaining hopeful. An idealist ponders extinction. If not hope, then what? Widening disaster threatens to waste me, as it surely will waste all the world. Hope is a torch held aloft in a monsoon, protected or doused, depending on the will of those carrying the light. Hope is a tether at this crossroad abyss where we choose to hold the lifeline or ignore and let loose. Modern men and women, both heroes and fools, mastodons in the final moments before a world of ice descends, enjoying the taste of fresh buttercups. All right, who enjoyed the early snow here, the seasonal snow? I did. One of my favorite times to be in the woods is in the winter. We have such a lush landscape here, but in the wintertime, it's so quiet, and you can see the rock structures, the arches, the cliffs. You can track animals. So this is one of those poems. It's a winter poem in the book. It's called Gorge. It has a line to begin the poem from Rumi, as quoted in Teachers of Wisdom by Igor Kononenko. Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. Volps leaves feces and footsteps behind in the quiet of winter snow. Cliff top scalp, burned and bark blackened from too few raindrops last summer. Hiking Red River, gorge engaged in divine dialogue that exists only in silence. Sources of light saturating to blindness, weathered etchings, and yesterday's world exposed. In towering rock shelters we step through arches of time, following where wild ones walk. Touching echoes, there is no need to talk. Sunday morning, and nothing is more sacred. All right, let's see if anybody. All right, Mary Ann. So I never really have a form. There's so many poems I'd like to read, but Mary Ann wants to hear Reclamation. Survival mechanism. Okay, cool. I like this. I'm going to read this one from Mary Ann. I own a little piece of Kentucky wonder in Menifee County, and this poem was written there, and it's kind of doing the work of fixing what people have messed up, and in that work finding our own center, our own path of healing. This poem's called Reclamation. The dragonflies appear to be doing fine, dance about my work as if there were no such thing. Wind sings when meeting tree limbs. Peeper and terrapine join the Black King for a sip where spraying leaks into a tiny pool. I join them in reflection. The long hours labored, having dug with hands and shovel, wrestled rocks and clumps, hauled wheelbarrows and buckets to reclaim myself, the head of the spring, the beauty and balance in existence before bulldozers came to scrape the treasure chest clean, left the land wounded to weep. My work stretched out by the sun, slowly sailing across the sky. I raise both arms up and breathe. A spider's web connects two trees. The Black King orbits me like a moon. This is our home. My day has been a slow journey of healing, all along the switchbacks of the mind. I am the snake, winding from one end of the wetland to the other. I like that one too. Let's see. Bobby, I'm going to read Survival Mechanism because I haven't read that poem yet in a public realm. And this poem is the juxtaposition of the gigantic city to the beauty of nature. And it was written inspired by one of my first trips to New York City. Survival Mechanism. Oh, ominous megalopolis, millennial crowds encased in black cloaks, rerun of 5 o'clock funeral procession, awful impatience at the end of the workday, unbelievable individual detachment, survival mechanism activated. I'm not afraid, just claustrophobic. People like a pulsation in every direction. Trains coming and going, a consistent rumble beneath the streets. Earthworms work earth somewhere, I'm sure. Tongues twisted with accents, seldom seen smiles, but sad masks. The prospect of terror and suspicious glances. All colors of strangers stacked shoulder to shoulder in seats made of plastic. Their noses in books and newspapers, ears plugged with headphones, staring at cell phones or eyes closed. Some playing possum, some try and sleep. I sit with a quiet smile, knowing my visit will soon come to an end. Yes. It's a wonderful place to visit for a few days. And I'm getting the hell out. Okay. Let's see. Since there's a beautiful moon out and about, I thought I would share, and also I see some Shelby County friends in the room. There's a place called Waddy, Kentucky, and my grandparents had a farm in Mount. Well, it was Waddy technically, but it was in between Mount Eden and Waddy, and so I spent a lot of time out there. This is called Off the Wagon, outside Waddy. I still think about the moon, seeping in through the barn slats while we sat splintered on warped wagon planks, under rafters hung heavy with harvest tobacco, the faraway forest, ringing hilltop pasture, an apparition, shrouded by dew. You ever been in a barn with the moon shining through it? It's amazing. Okay, let's see. On that note, I see Kentucky is my body in there. I don't know if that was a request. Is that a request there, Katerina? Yeah. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to my friend and the person that helped me write that poem in a workshop, and it was Rebecca Gale Howe. And she gave a really wonderful workshop in Mount Sterling that day, and this poem was born. And it's been a staple, and it's wonderful to have it in a book finally. And just found out last week that it's been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, so appropriate for the poem. Kentucky is my body. I am a graveyard, a farm converting crops to cement, a barn who lost the gift of tobacco, still stained with its scent. My aroma, sour mash, coal-burning power plants, wildflower blooms and natural gas, redbuds, magnolias. I am cigarette smoke and cancer, strip malls like sunspots on a burn back, another and another and another church, acres and acres churned up in the worship of money. Kentucky is my body. I am sweet water sinking through skin to limestone, bone, a circulatory system, pushing blood through veins beyond dams and stents, clots of plaque, cans, and plastic. I am black lungs, bellowing the song my granny sung over a hot stove while mashing potatoes pulled from the garden ground before any future conversion to cul-de-sac. I am a crooked spine of knobs and mountaintops, centered only by serpentine sway of back roads, my soul, where front porch stories still echo. Kentucky is my body, and I am a gun rack, locked in a spare bedroom where quilts lay spread across peaceful beds. On that note, I'm going to go to the poem Old Frankfort Pike is a Spine of Mine. And you may ask, why is that so? Being from Shelbyville and spending the other half of my life mostly in central Kentucky and in Lexington, it's my preferred route to and fro, and it's an amazing corridor. You get to see what this bluegrass savanna looked like in a lot of cases, in a few places where it's still wild. And this poem was written as a part of Walt Whitman birthday celebration, and the project gathered writers and artists, and we were all assigned a certain location and a certain time of day. I was paired with the photographer Melissa Vandenberg, and our assignment was Old Frankfort Pike ending at the Capitol Bridge in Frankfort. The Capitol Bridge is the one that leads right up to the Capitol, and it was our time was at sunset into the evening. Old Frankfort Pike is a spine of mine. 1. Clash at the edge of scenic corridors, What is called progress is an insatiable force, threatens to move us in reverse. We make the choice, what to preserve, what to destroy, keep driving into the storm. I slow down enough to see herds of whitetail crossing savannas forgotten, undulating pastures haunted by dead giants, rich remnants ruled by chinkapin and burr. 2. The elkhorn holds a secret. I am Pegasus, racing against darkness, my demise, sprinting down limestone-walled backstretches, awakened now as the afternoon dies. Foals nap near their mare mothers, dream or deja vu. Again, I am the hero, confined to the haphazard sprawl of civilization. I scrawl salvation, strategy into the infinity of an empty page. 3. Our state house of weapons looks on, promises there will always be bullets, captives, victors. I capture its image from the shadows. Few remember the dead atop the palisade around the bend. Tombs and monuments crown the Capitol. Its golden dome glimmers in gray dusk. It's the idea that watches over us. 4. Trees know no night. Where leaders are supposed to lead, the lanterns on the bridge are dim. One woolly mullen makes a home in a crack in a forgotten wall, does not care who calls, "Charge!" I neigh this night song beside a rising river. Oh, sycamores, standing here witness, more majestic than those towers, more commanding than this Capitol. Tell, brother, sister, box elder, red cedar, to inherit the future with you. I fear we are too hungry for blood, too reliant on war, too committed to ignorance to join you. All right. Let's see. How we doing, Katerina? Do you want to keep reading?
Feel free to read some more.
Okay. Again, if anybody has a poem they want to hear, throw it in the chat. I'm going to read this for my mother-in-law. She loves this poem. I love this poem. There's a moon in it. Nothing lasts forever. Surely a moon rules over all this beauty and mess. Yes. Feel the tug of a full one just before sunsets on another kaleidoscopic Kentucky afternoon. Threshold upon threshold we cross, hand in hand or severed, but together. Nothing lasts forever. Just ask a mother, a lover, or a mountain. Right. Let's see. This one's kind of fun. So this is another Menifee County poem, and I'll never forget this day because I was walking down this path and I found a turtle that was about that big. It was the tiniest turtle I've ever seen. So it's called Turtle Slow. Turtle slow on recuperating logging road. Pale jewel weed and Joe Pye shimmy. An Indian pipe, like tobacco pipes, gray-white against 10 shades of green gorge slopes. Fingers of fungus jump up from moist sandstone boulder shadows. Poplar, beech, oak, fabric, a forest quilt. Feel, humming, life, pulse everywhere beneath sky. By God, there is no God, but this God, and she is a voluptuous goddess, a great mother tending the needs of her many children. Springs, creeks, rivers, when I need water. Fruit, nut, flesh, when I need sustenance. Cave, canopy, cliff, when I need shelter. Pet, kin, companion, when I need love. There's a poem that I haven't read a lot that I wanted to share. Let's see, we've got on my list there. In this poem, I feel like it's important for a lot of reasons. Number one, our relationship to the food we eat. I was a hardcore vegetarian for a long time. And so this poem is sort of about that journey and sort of these flashpoint moments that happened to me in my life. So I thought I would share it. Becoming vegetarian. 1. My first trip, we followed Papa into the dark of the farm's open fields, carried piercing spears, long forks for gigging frogs. Our spotlight lit a circle around a paralyzed mother, a bloom of babies nearby, a blur of eyes looking back at us blinded. Suddenly my cousin stabbed where light illumined water. One quick jab, the surface of the pond no longer calm. 2. I inherited my role as fisherman from both grandfathers, addicted to the peace of the shore where the wait for a catch could take hours. I'll never forget one afternoon by that big pond right behind Purnell's, old folks, where live flesh is manufactured, sausage and bacon, hogs turned to ham, shoulders and loins. Good. Those poor pigs, a soundtrack of death. They just kept squealing. 3. Chickens stacked on the back of an 18-wheeler in an open-air cage like Holocaust survivors, gaunt and gray, wind ripping what's left of their feathers from shivering bodies. Their eyes, penetrating, shout such quiet terror. I had to tear myself away to the point of tears. 4. Want to make some extra money? My friend asked over the phone early one Saturday. Broke as most 15-year-olds. I said yes. Next stop, Coddle's Flyers. A place to place bets, then shoot skeet or pigeons. Our job to gather the dead, each unlucky survivor. A weathered and thin farmhand named Julian taught us with a live demonstration how boys became men. You had to take them by the head and snap their delicate necks. The next 8 hours made eternity seem a blink. When finally freed from our agonizing task, he took us back to town in a beat-up old Ford to the safety of our homes. The drive, cigarette smoke, and quiet. 2 boys, newly bruised beneath another peeled layer. The sun too tired to hold itself up. All right, Katerina, what do you think? Maybe one more? end on something that not so.
I think that would be something with its neck up. That would be great. Yes.
Lifting poem. Okay. I think maybe we'll do a short one. Oh, there's a request, so let's do that one. Lifeboat. Hey, we'll throw a lifeboat. This is for Sarah. Let me find this one real quick. Lifeboat 28. All right. Lifeboat. I can see you need a lifeboat, a set of strong arms wrapped around you, one brave hand reaching up from the abyss. But my previous rescue attempts have ended in failure. I was a lifeguard who instinctively dove in, battled the waves and changing currents to save another, only to find that I had forgotten how to swim. Someone had to drown, so I let go. I did everything I possibly could to get back to the safety of the shore, but I cannot lie. It was a pathetic dog paddle. I could not help but swallow salty water. And now, having reached the beach, having lost so much before to the awful bottom, I cannot even stand to stick one little toe into any body of water.
Bravo, yeah. Eric. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm so glad that you read Lifeboat. It has been one of my favorites.
That was
that
was a Public Republic published poem back in like 2010.
2010. You read that particular poem. It's the Accents radio show launch.
Right.
We had a very big reading, right. and you gave a great reading of that poem too. But now I just want our audience here, the people who are here, to ask their questions. If they don't have any, I have a few.
Okay. Fire away, folks.
But I'm sure they do. There is a question. There are two questions. One from Marianne Worthington. She says, a lot of your poems are tall and lanky. Could you talk about why you often favor using very short lines in your poems?
Good question, Marianne. I like the rhythm. I like the brevity of the rhythm of the short line. You know, a lot of the poets that I think I take a lot of inspiration from wrote in a shorter line. Even though there are some poems in this book that are more prose-ish, I guess you would say, in nature, with just the longer lines. I don't know, our friend Morris Manning, you know, he used to talk about Gerard Manley Hopkins, and like, if you read his poems, it's almost like you know, you could tell that he was probably singing those things, you know. And, you know, if this is your first time hearing me read, you know, music and lyrical kind of, I like that feeling in a poem. And I think that short lines, number one, I like breaking them off to leave you with a certain feeling, but then maybe it goes to the next line too. But then a lot of times you just get that music in the shorter line, I think. So yeah, tall and lanky, just like me. I hope I answered your question there, Marianne. Anybody else?
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
And that is, do you have a favorite tree? You mentioned them throughout the poems, and I want to know what's your personal favorite.
Well, so it's hard not to be reverent of the giants, you know, the bur oaks and the chinkapins, the things that live for hundreds of years. Probably my favorite tree is a sycamore. I love the color of the tree, the way it's modeled, and how the tips, you know, it goes from kind of a shaggy brownish grayish, and then it becomes mottled like camouflage, and then at the very top it's white. And I love how in the winter, again, you can find water. You see those white fingers sticking up. You know that there's springs or a creek or something nearby, because that's where the sycamores are hanging out. So that's probably my favorite tree. You know, with a close second, you know, the big oaks, the bur and the chinkapins.
Thank you. I see another question from S. Powers. Are you more inspired to write about people or nature, or does it just depend on your mood?
Well, hey, Sasha. Glad that you made it into the reading. Good friend from way back. I feel like that my life experience, just, you know, the experiences that you heard about here in these poems just kind of shaped me to be an environmentalist, if you will, a naturalist, curious about nature, our habitat. I like that word a little better. I mean, it's where we live. It's not this abstract thing. It's, you know, the environment is in between the sidewalk and the street. You know, I mean, it's everywhere. But I feel like you know, Larry's here, and one of my favorite things Larry really said to me after the reading at the church. You remember that, Larry? I think I was doing Pendulum or something. I did the living words, living with words or something like that at the church downtown. And Larry pointed out, like, you know, Pendulum was a book about people, and quite often damaged people. And then a lot of these poems that made it into this book, you know, it's damaged people or just people inhabiting a damaged world. And so I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, nature is what, you know, inspires me, makes me feel good, oftentimes moves me to pick up a pen. But, you know, my last book, I was spending a lot of time around a lot of different types of people. And so they were the landscape, you know, that I was inspired to write about. But even in those poems, you know, nature finds its way into it, right? Because, you know, people in our habitat are, you know, we're linked, you know. So that's a good question. But I feel like it just kind of depends on the situation, what I'm moved to write about. But a lot of times nature does inspire that.
Thank you. And I see another question by Chuck Stringer.
Okay.
I hope
hey, Chuck.
I pronounce your name right, Chuck.
Let's see here.
So it says, Eric, do you find yourself returning to specific places that you consider to be very sacred?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, you know, particularly like, you know, driving that road, that's just one example. I mean, I know I could drive that road probably blindfolded. And I know, you know, when a tree disappears, there used to be this huge sycamore out in this field, out in this cornfield on Old Frankfort Pike. Right before you get to that, I call it Deer Alley. It's where Brereton Jones's farm, former Governor Brereton Jones, owns this really wooded spot there. And it's really lined, it's narrow, there's trees growing out of the wall, and there's always deer. You know, you got to really be careful there. But right on the right, there's a spring house. And there's this big, beautiful, you know, it was in decline, but it's this big old sycamore. And, you know, that was just a marker and a sacred marker in my mind. And I remember the day I drove by and it was gone. And, you know, now the spring house is gone. And, you know, it makes it easier to farm, right? Because they're not having to go around that little square. But at my place in Menifee County, which is it's close to the Red River Gorge, it's north of the gorge, in between Cave Run and the gorge, and it's cliffs. And we have a place there, you know, that's called the church. There's a cross that's been weathered into the rock face, you know. There are all these hemlocks that have heaved and that are hanging off the cliff, and there's a little perch, and it just, the first time I went there, I felt like this is a sacred place. You know, I mean, like Wendell has said, Black Elk, lots of people who are spiritual, you know, the Holy Land is wherever you stand, right? I mean, so I think what I'm trying to help people see is that sacred things are everywhere, you know. It's whatever you decide, you know. To me, I think it's all sacred, and it's worth battling for, protecting, you know, encouraging to be wild in what it is. So I definitely return to places, you know, my land, I have several little places like that. There's a giant rock shelter, and you can see, I didn't read that poem. There's a poem in the book. It's called, what's the title of that one? I Make My Way Jagged. It talks about the swirling motion of this rock, but it's, you know, the ocean basically carved this giant boulder, and it's a rock shelter. I mean, how can that not be inspiring and sacred, you know? So that's a place we go to all the time. There's another giant boulder that fell off the cliff, and it landed on top of a limestone outcrop, and it looks like a big fist, and you can climb up on top of it, and it's just got this energy. I mean, so, you know, there are sacred places everywhere, and I definitely wish I could visit them all the time, you know. You know, if you go to the gorge, one of the most amazing places, that place is just so visited now. It's hard to be there and really get into your space if there's people everywhere. But Gray's Arch is just one of those amazing earth spots, you know. Cumberland Falls, you know, I mean, there's just so many of those places. So yeah, that's a great question, Chuck. Sorry, I went over a little bit there, rambling, but.
Will you tell us, Eric, what are you writing these days?
What am I writing? Well, so, you know, I've definitely written about COVID and the quarantine life. I started writing some quarantine quatrains at the beginning, and I was really trying to stay into that. And then I got sidetracked. Life, being furloughed from my job, you know, just things like that. But I've been writing a lot about the political climate in the country, you know, a lot of domestic issues, what it's like to be chasing an 8-year-old around a lot about race. And then nature is always in there, you know. I mean, our habitat is always ever present in the background of everything. So, and it's all connected. So I think that's what mostly I've been writing about here lately. It's hard not to, you know, the last year has been amazingly trying for all of us, I know. And it's hard to be passionate and motivated to not pick up a pen and just, you know, a lot of it's venting. I mean, I've written a lot of venting poems that will never be published probably, but boy, it felt good to, you know, God, I can't believe it. But some of that will see light, and it'll be interesting moving forward as life hopefully returns to a little bit more normal rhythm, or, you know, what we've been accustomed to, how those things evolve.
And the second part of this question, I think that will be the last for tonight, and it comes from Tony Brusate. And okay. Who are you reading these days?
Well, over the last few years, I've been around Halloween, I've been trying to read like classic, like a classic horror tale. So like I read Frankenstein 2 years ago. Last year I read Bram Stoker. This year I read a Tolstoy story. It's a shorter, I mean, I think he called it a novella, but it's about a creature called the Vordelak. And that was interesting. I spent a lot of time watching film. My wife is a film buff, and we do a lot of film watching. And the Vordelak is a really interesting vampire-like creature. Of course, Katerina, I mean, the Vordelak is kind of from your region where you're from, right? Like, did you have a tale like of that?
So I haven't heard of Vordelok. I've heard of Verkulak, which I don't know if that's a similar thing.
It's got to be the same. Yeah.
It's kind of like
a vampire,
something a wolf-like creature that would strangle you.
Yeah, and I think there's multiple variations of that, but not to get off into a big long story about my interest in those creatures. But so I've read that recently. What else have I been reading? Of course, I read Frank X. Walker's new book. His little book club was really great, and Frank's a friend and you know, interested in his perspective on what's been going down, and his beautiful poems. And that's probably about it here lately. I haven't, you know, I kind of go through periods of reading a lot and not. I'd say that recently I've been more in the film world than actually reading a lot. But there's so many good books of poems out, and I'm trying to keep up with that. And I wish I could go buy them at readings from people instead of trying to find the less evil way to get the books at my house. And there's a lot of great Kentucky writers with new books out, so should definitely check those out.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for participating. Thank you for the wonderful comments that you posted here in the chat. Thank you for your questions. Eric, absolutely stunning, wonderful reading.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Signing off, and we'll see you for the literary accents reading. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.